This is an emergency alert. The leader of Hezbollah, who reports directly to the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, in the Islamic dictatorship, the Islamic Shiite dictatorship, has declared war on the United States, and has said that the United States is behind everything Israel is doing. Now, whether you think that's accurate or not, it doesn't matter. War has been declared upon the United States and the people of America by Hezbollah, that is sock puppeting almost all the other Islamic terror organizations. And they have millions of people in Europe that are military-age men and hundreds of thousands that are military-age men in the U.S., and they are saying they're preparing to attack us. Do you understand? The article's on Infowars.com with the video of the leader speaking to the Iranian government, the Iranian parliament, laying this out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is happening now. This is an emergency situation. The globalists are manipulating this from behind the scenes to bring in a global crisis so Biden can cancel the election, and they can use the war as the pretext for claiming that that's why the economy has imploded, so the globalists don't get the blame. They can be the saviors and bring in their new central bank digital currency, the ESGs, and more. This is an emergency alert.
InfoWars, tomorrow's news today.
We all must establish this fact. The United States is totally responsible for the war raging in Gaza against unarmed, defenseless people. It is the United States that vetoes condemnation of Israel in the Security Council. It's the United States that stands on the way of a ceasefire in Gaza. It is the United States proving once again, as described by Khomeini, it is the greatest Satan, the great devil. From Hiroshima to Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Palestine, the United States must be held liable and then penalized for all what it has been perpetrating against our people and the peoples of the region. And there comes the decision by the Islamic resistance movement in Iraq to launch offenses against the American bases in Iraq and Syria, considering that the United States is controlling the war in Gaza, and it is the United States that must pay the price for the crimes perpetrated by the Israelis in Gaza and by the Americans in Iraq and elsewhere.
You are about to get real history. Alert, alert. You are about to get the facts. Most major wars are pre-agreed upon by powerful forces ahead of time. And that's what's happening with Hezbollah declaring war on the United States and saying they're now going to start striking U.S. targets around the world, including inside the United States. First, let's do a little historical breakdown on how different kings in Europe would have wars with each other to control their own domestic populations. Then we'll fast forward to the present time and then break down tomorrow's news today and tell you what's coming next. If you study the last 1,000 years in Western Europe, you really understand how the globalists think. The Norman kings were Vikings that conquered much of Europe and then made their main headquarters in France. And William the Conqueror, around 1,000 years ago, then invaded what's England today and conquered that. And then you got the line of kings that ran all the way up until they died out. And then going back with King George I, they got German or European kings. But that's all a side issue. When you read the letters and you read the documents from the time going back 500, 600 years ago, you would have a Norman king in England talking to his cousin, the king of France, and they would basically talk about uprisings they were having and problems unifying the different tribes that were in England, the Britties, so you get the term British, and the, of course, Welsh and others. They would basically say, time for a war. And they would then have a big war that would last sometimes 10 years, 50 years, longer. War of the Roses, so that they could control their domestic populations because a war was going on, and that got rid of the excess young men and people. So you have to understand the Iranians are even older culture than the Vikings and the Norman. People think of Vikings just raiding villages. No, the Vikings actually took over and are what founded modern Europe, of course, with the Roman antecedent before that. But expanding on this, the Iranians made deals with the Republicans to have hostages and blame Jimmy Carter and have that whole situation to get Carter out of office, and that's been partially declassified. I'm not saying Jimmy Carter's good, but it was just something that went on. That's just a historical fact. And so the globalists don't control the Iranians, but they are able to make deals with them behind the scenes to not nuke the Iranians and then just have a war with them, a conventional war, a limited conventional war that allow the Iranians to clamp down and have power and control, and will also allow the West to clamp down and have control. And I've been understanding this for a long time, and that's why it's so key now that Hezbollah has officially said they're going to start attacking U.S. targets around the world, including inside the United States. And I said that back on October 7th, so I'm going to break that down right now. And then I'm going to play just a few of the clips where probably 50 times in the last month I've explained that this was coming next. This is a big deal. It'll be a real war, but it'll be limited, and the agreement's been made behind the scenes. And that's why Biden gave them $187 billion of weapons in Afghanistan and $6 billion just a month before they attacked Israel. The fix is in. They're going to try to suspend the election coming up in 12 months. So this is the most dangerous time in world history we've seen, because even though they've got deals and alliances at the top, and secret agreements like Stalin and Hitler had, they'll end up turning against each other in the end, just like World War II. History is definitely repeating itself.